it's really frustrating because, like, my thing about work is, like, I want to know how to do my job, and I want that I want to be great at it. I want that shit on lock. I want to go in on
so you don't have to think about it.
I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
So when you have a job where it is constantly changing and you don't know, and none of it is based on intuition or logic, because if what I'm supposed to be doing makes sense or any changes make sense, got it. But it's not. It's all just based on nothing. Then what are you gonna do? And so it gets really really frustrating. And today I gave myself a pep talk on my way to work, where I was like, you know what, my checks still cash the same. Yeah. So whether or not I have, because we have to do all this self-reporting every single day. We have to fill out charts and graphs on our personal performance, like both by the 8-hour metric and like hourly, like and we get rated by 2 different like teams of rating people.
That's what they do at Garrett Duell's company too.
It's kind of insane. And then I go, you know what? If I get a red, if I get a couple reds, I will get fired. But like, my checks cash the same whether or not I get yellows or greens. Like, it does not. Yeah. So whether or not I'm a high performer or a low performer, especially because I don't qualify for bonuses right now. Yeah, it does not matter. That money spends the same. And
and you're still brand new too.
Yeah, but just like learning how to like not give a fuck. So like, and I always use the comparison of Sesame Street, which is my dream job. If I was working for Sesame Street and I was getting negative job performance feedback, I would be torn up about it. Yeah. But if I'm getting negative job performance feedback at wherever I happen to work currently, who gives a shit? Those checks still cash. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I agree, and I just feel like I don't know, like I have all this communication-based frustration lately in my life. You know, it's just like with the nonstop. I mean, we've been having meetings about this every day at work, and all these different revised emails about how to respond to, you know, and like you said before. If it made logical sense, you'd be like, oh, yeah, like it's intuitional. Yeah. And because I'm I live my life intuitionally. That's just how I am. Like, I just you know.
Logic and reason.
Yeah, exactly. What feels right, I do, you know. So it's like if somebody says, this is an urgent problem, my intuition would be like, oh, well, we'll get right on that for you. You know, let me see what I can do, which actually used to be the policy, and now apparently it's not. And also, I don't know. It's too complicated to even get in. I don't even understand it, like what's happening anymore. Like none of it makes sense.
It's all, you know what I say? And I said this when you and I worked together, and I still say it at my current job. It's all charts and graphs, man. Charts and graphs.
It is. It's all charts and graphs, and it's all just a lot of BS. Yeah. And then on top of that, what makes it more frustrating is then when you have like personal relationships that are also suffering from communication.
Yeah, you know, to be honest, like, it's really hard to be friends with sensitive people, and I've spoken about this before, where I feel better in my friendships with bitchy gay men because they're just like, you know, why the fuck are you eating again? Like, you know, or whatever it is. And none of it's personal. Yeah. Or like, for example, I'll give my mother, who I always bitch about, like, I'll give her some credit where you can say anything to her, and she is so great about it. I once, on stage, drunk, announced, hey, my mom's in the audience tonight. She's a horny old bitch. And my mom just waved and afterwards said, great show. Or I once I went on a 10-day road trip with my mom, and on the second day, I told her I hated her. And she just looked at me and she goes, you always have. And so,
oh my God. How was the rest of that road trip?
It was rough, to be honest. Yeah. But I think, like, we just kind of get each other, maybe. So, and I can say those things to her, and she doesn't take them personally. Yeah. And I appreciate that, because I want people who can be straightforward with me. Because, like, listen, if I lose perspective, like, that's what friends are for, right? To be direct with you. So, like, be a straight shooter. Yeah. I had my first, like, one-on-one meeting with my boss yesterday, and she's like, I usually do them out there, but for your first one, I pull you in here to, like, a private conference room. Yeah. And I was like, oh, is that because you thought You know, she's like, you never know how people are going to take it. Like, it's the kiss and cry area of the U.S. figure skating championships. That's what they call where you wait for your score.
Oh, okay.
The kiss and cry area.
That makes sense.
And I was like, I will tell you straight up, I don't take any of this personally. I would rather you just tell me when I'm fucking up, and then that way I can stop fucking up. And she's like, we're going to get along great. And that felt really good because I'm like, I don't want to be mollycoddled.
Yeah.
I don't want people to be mean to me, obviously, but, like, whatever it is, say it to my face.
Yeah.
So I know, and it's not behind my back.
Yeah.
Because I have real issues with those people who are always sweet to your face, and then they talk shit about other people to you, so you know they talk shit about you to other people.
Of course.
That's just how it is. We've all had that manager who, rather than directly correcting someone's performance, just complains about them behind their back.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the well, why don't you tell them?
Yeah.
And they'll change. But I guess it's because there are some people who get all fucking butthurt about shit.
Apparently there always are, and there always will be. And,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was in my senior year at ASU, and I'd already done like 2 associates in art, and it's par for the course in art classes that you do critiques. You do critiques when you're working on them, midway progress, so you can change on your project, and you do critiques at the end because that's what makes you better at things, right? Yeah. Critique. In writing classes, you do writing workshops, you trade papers, you critique. That's what makes you better. So we had a critique, and 2 people ran out of the room crying. And I was like, how did they get to be in their senior year of college, and they had never had anything they'd done critiqued by another person?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Oh, my God. I actually went to this acting workshop once that was quite expensive. And this was like a year ago. It was a professional workshop. It was like an all-day thing. It was hosted by this woman who's a casting director in LA. She like flew to Arizona for it, and you had to have a monologue prepared. Plus, they gave you a bunch of scenes to like cold read, and you had time to like study some of them, and then others you just had to cold read. And one of the first people that went up to do her, and granted, this is like something that actors pay to go there and be critiqued, to be told how to be better actors. This is like designed for people that either are professional or want to be professional. So it's like you go up, you do your monologue, and like, here's what you're doing wrong. And it was like a commercial workshop, like if you want to get into commercials.
Okay,
So it's like, it's not like we're doing a school play of Our Town, where it's open to, it's all subjective. It's like, no. If you want to book commercials, this is how you actually have to do it. This is how you have to. Everything from this is how you have to say your name. Like you have to introduce yourself, to the camera, and then you like jump into character. And there's like a process, like a way to do that. Anyway, so one of the first people that got up there was a grown woman. I'm talking like a grown up, like in her 40s, and she same thing. Like she started her monologue, and this casting director was very like, she would just jump. She'd be like, okay, hold on, stop. Like back up. Like the way I want you to do this is do it like that. Like she wouldn't let you finish necessarily. If she saw something, she jumped in,
corrected it right away.
Yeah, exactly. And because again, this is not a high school class.
Yeah.
So this
and no casting agent is going to let you go on and on if what you're doing is not right.
Yeah, they're going to stop you. They're going to say thanks, leave the room. Yeah, you're done. Thanks, goodbye. We'll let you know. So anyway, this grown woman got like very upset and was on the verge of tears. And then she's like, well, I guess I'll just leave, like going to leave the workshop. And it got really like stone quiet in the room, and everyone, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, like what is wrong with you, lady? You're a grown up. Yeah. You're a grown woman. You paid $200 to do this work. This is, and the casting director wasn't being mean to her. She was like, okay, let me stop you here. Just some stupid note. And she's like, oh, well, because I prepared it like this. And she's like, yeah, I realize that, but it's not going to work. Like,
that's not going to get you work.
And she was like, what do you mean it's not going to work? I'm like, this is like this, you might as well, this is like on par with like airline school. Like, there's one way to fly a plane. You know,
Yeah.
there's like I'm telling you, here's how you fly the plane. Like, do it this way. Like,
Yeah, Crest isn't hiring you for your artistic interpretation of their toothpaste commercial.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh my god, you know. And I got critiqued too, and but I was like, oh, yeah, that was really good. That was good, you know. Like, she stopped me.
Yeah.
You know, and she critiqued the hell out of the worst critique for me was my headshot, which was not one that you took.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was some professional headshot I got a few years ago. She's like, this is a terrible headshot of you. Like, this is just awful. Nothing about this like showcases who you are. This is all wrong. Like, get rid of this immediately. And I'm all like, oh, okay. Well, at least I didn't take that headshot. So.
Well, I think that people are just we live crippled by fear in so many ways.
Oh,
like
yeah.
across the board, our lives were crippled by fear. And you and I discussed, not on a podcast, about rejection therapy once. And that guy who, like, every single day he asks somebody for something where
he knows he's going to be rejected.
Yeah, just to get used to it. Yeah. And number one, that's really interesting if you look him up, because one of them was he asked a lady at Krispy Kreme if she could make some donuts linked together like the Olympic rings, which the answer is no. The answer is no, right? She fucking did it for him. She got it. She cut him. She did him, iced him different colors. It's really cool. But the rest of it is like, you just need to get used to getting rejected. I was talking to a friend about dating the other day, and she was admiring my balls because, like, I just ask guys out, right? I just do, because number one, I know I'm an obsessive person, and rather than obsess about wanting to do something, I would rather just do it.
Sure.
And I take that.
It's a good policy.
Yeah, I take that into food, which maybe I shouldn't. But if I'm like, if I spend 2 days obsessing over pizza, you know what? I'm just gonna get a fucking pizza. I'm just gonna eat the whole pizza. And then I can stop thinking about it, you know? I can move on with my goddamn life. And so I do that with dating as well. And it doesn't always work out. Yeah. And but the more I've done it, the more I've gotten used to it. And so she's like, can I just borrow your balls for like 1 minute? And I was like, it's not about having balls. It's just realizing the alternative is pining and not knowing and just being in this limbo. And wouldn't you rather just get no? Because it's like ripping off a Band-Aid. Yeah, it is. Right? So if you want to ask somebody out, you could think about it, which in her case, she has been in love with her boss for a year. Like, in love. And I went on vacation with them together.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, and there's obviously like a dynamic there. Yeah. And she won't do anything about it. And
is it maybe it's because it's her boss? Like,
well, and then she was like, well, I'm going to wait till I get this promotion, and I'm going to wait till this, I'm going to wait till that. And it's like, dude, you guys go out drinking all the time. You go to strip clubs. A stripper put your fucking hand on his dick. He wasn't upset about it. Like, obviously something's going on.
And they're both single?
Yes. Well, he had a girlfriend in Ireland, but he broke up with her. I know. Like, that even fucking counts. If it's on a different continent, it's not even cheating.
I'm miming the action of male masturbatory processes right now.
Yeah, feeding the pigeons.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm like, so what is more painful? Having him just say no, and it's awkward in the office for, I swear to God, it would be like maximum a week or two, right? If you were like, hey, you want to go on a date? And they said no, and it would be awkward for a week or two.
Well, it sounds like they already are going on dates.
They all the time. Yeah. They get invited to dinner parties together, everything. So I'm all, why don't you just say, I have feelings for you? Do you have feelings for me? Yeah. Because the worst that can happen is he'll say no, and things are exactly the way they are now, except for it would get better. Because if you're pining for someone and you don't know whether or not they like you, you're going to keep pining. But
it just puts your whole life on hold when you're doing that.
Exactly. And that's what I said. I said, you're never going to move on and keep, or, you know, date anyone else because you're in love with him. So if you just ask him out and he tells you no, you can move on with your fucking life. Like, and rejection isn't that bad. I ask guys out all the time, and they say no. Yeah. And you know, what do? I go on a Friday night, and I come over to Scott McNulty's house, and we do a fucking podcast. Hey. Because being famous is more important than personal connection.
Yeah, but, you know, just to bring it back around a success story, you did ask someone out recently, and you were not rejected.
No, but it's since kind of gotten weird. So,
well, because you work with this person?
No, because they don't respond to my texts.
Oh.
Or it's like a slow response.
We can cut this out if you
No, I just won't say who it is. But
right.
I did ask someone out, and they were super excited about it, and we hung out the next day, and we ended up staying up all night. We hung out for like 13 or 14 hours. Like, it was...
amazing.
Yeah. It was crazy, and it was one of those things where you just, like, instantly are connected, and you're like...
Yeah.
And he, more so than me, was like, oh, my God, we're in so much trouble. And I was like, what are you talking about, like, at work? And he's like, no, I mean, like, a year down the road, it's going to be this or whatever. And he, yeah, seriously. And he was like, I'm going to steal you and get you, you know, move you out of Arizona. And he was like, and we both were just like, I'm so into you. I'm so into you. Like, it turns out we're very much compatible. He's an artist and a musician. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and, like, really his two, like, main things are art and education, and, like, which are my two main things.
Yeah.
And it was just, like, this magical, magical time. And then since then, and, you know, you never know in the beginning of a relationship, like, because you're not secure in it, right? So, like,
sure.
He, like, won't respond to texts for, like, hours.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking like 6-7 hours, and it could be because he's working, or has the flu, or like, you know, it'll be like, hey, I'm looking forward to smooching on you tomorrow, and he'll just write back, same. And so, like, you know, if you, like, knew where you stood with someone, that wouldn't bother you. But the fact that, like...
that's a mind fuck.
Yeah, it's a total mind fuck. And then I'm like, did that night that I'm remembering even happen? Or was he just really drunk? Because, I mean, he was drunk. So, I so I have no idea what's going on. And I haven't seen him or spent time with him outside of work since then. So but I'm starting to think that maybe like that was just like a one-off experience. And so I don't know. Yeah, it's a mind fuck.
Has it been weird at work or?
No, because we don't really work together. And he hasn't been at work like at all this week. And when he has been, like, we don't really work together, so...
well, he's been sick, right? You said?
Yeah.
Well, that's probably a big factor. I mean, if I have the flu, I'm definitely not texting.
No, I know, but
or really doing it other than vomiting and sleeping.
The 3 days prior to getting the flu, he wasn't very responsive to texts, so I don't know. I can't. And then I'm like, was it just a fling? Because... It seemed like something more, but I'm totally wrong. So who knows?
Well, on the positive side,
I got laid.
Yeah, that. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, in all seriousness, you did what you said that you like to do, which is you got past it. I mean, you were kind of pining over this guy. You were talking about him a lot. You were thinking about him a lot. And this could have gone on for, if it was me, this would have gone on for years because that's how I operate.
Oh, yeah, no.
Where you got it done, and now at least you know. Yeah. You're like, well, you know, we had one really fun night, or who knows what'll happen. Maybe there's just something going on right now in his personal life. You don't know. I mean,
yeah, that's the thing is I don't know at all.
It could all turn around tomorrow. So
yeah, and he could be weird because we do work together.
Yeah.
He could be weird because he thinks that I am like a love him and leave him type, and maybe like he feels vulnerable, or he could have just wanted to hook up. Like I don't know. So we'll see. But yeah, I was telling my friend, I think it was like 38 days between. Now I have to look at the facts and figures. I think it was like 38 days between when I broke up with my boyfriend and I asked him out, and I was like, that's like a forever in my world because I just was like thinking of it. Let's see. Well, now I'm just looking at my text, and that's like silly that I'm like trying to find this. But this is how I am with like dates and figures. Because I was like, it felt like fucking forever. I feel like it was 5 weeks that I was like, I want to ask this guy out, and then I did it. And I guess 5 weeks really isn't that long.
Did you tell your friend who's in love with her boss that you asked out this guy?
Yeah, I told her all about it. And
that's why she wants to borrow your balls?
Yeah, she's kind of living vicariously through me.
Yeah.
And not that I had sex with my boss, because I would never do that. But...
Well, he's not technically your boss.
He's
right?
not my boss.
Yeah.
It kind of like feels a little bit kinky and scandalous to say it that way.
Yeah, it sounds cool, actually. I mean, it sounds awesome. You know?
Yeah.
And you know what could be going on too is that maybe he probably got really nervous about the whole work scenario afterwards, but you know, but he's probably. I mean, he'll get over that.
Yeah, basically, yeah, because like if anyone were to find out, I guess he would get fired. I would be fine.
Oh,
but
yeah. Well, that explains it. Then yes, that's exactly what's going through his mind.
So yeah, because like in our night of passion, he was like, I gotta put in my 2 weeks on Monday, and you know, you don't know how much of that is just like drunk romanticizing and how much of that was like serious. So like he could be freaked out because we like had one conversation in passing at work, and he kind of like awkwardly like walked away, and I think maybe he's being overly nervous about it, which I'm like, I just ignore him at work like I do everybody else because work is work. And also listen, if he needs me to quit, if what it takes for me to keep getting that dick is for me to quit a job I don't really like.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, because I'm actually at a point where, like, I could, there are other jobs that I could take, and I wouldn't have a gap in employment. So...
With the same company, or
no,
you getting some offers?
Well, no, like, a coworker at my other job is moving, a full-time coworker, so I could easily go into picking up shifts there.
Oh, okay.
You know, because I have the restaurant and the coffee shop. I also know someone else in an office who is hiring for someone who it wouldn't be the same benefits package that I have now, and I do love my benefits.
Yeah.
But but I could at this point in time like move into another job, and just I would lose my health insurance, but it wouldn't be the end of the world because I'm not like I want to hold down a job. Theoretically, I want to hold down a job so I have a resume that says I can work in a professional environment.
Sure.
But when I'm getting...
Overrated. Yeah,
exactly. Because when I'm getting emails every hour about stupid shit and charts and graphs, I'm like, I really wish I was teaching kids right now. Because that's what I was going to do.
Yeah, you got your substitute license.
Yeah, and I was going to substitute teach this semester, but what I'm doing right now pays significantly more.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not an idiot.
Well, we're not interested in compensating people that actually are in charge of shaping the future of America.
No.
I mean, why would we?
Why would we?
Now, basketball players, they deserve all of our wealth.
Of our money.
Yes.
Yeah. So I took my job because I'm like, listen, I need money. I've learned, like, I'm not obsessed with money, but I've learned that life is a lot easier when you have it.
Yeah.
Like when you just don't have to worry about going hungry.
And
what substitute teaching pays is what it paid when I started working at that place that you worked at.
Oh.
And I was like driving on an empty gas tank, go to bed hungry, poor. And I would prefer not to do that anymore. And plus, you know, like I got trips to Brazil to do drugs and shit, you know, so it's like I gotta be making money.
Yeah, that Ibogaine isn't going to do itself.
The Ibogaine isn't going to do itself. So, yeah, that trip is delayed. Did I tell you I got my blood work back, and I'm on the low end of magnesium. So I have to take a magnesium supplement for a month and get my blood work redone.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know. There's a lot of work that goes into doing drugs.
Yeah. I have high cholesterol and high blood pressure. I have blood problems as well.
You do have blood problems.
It's a bloody mess. But I will say this: I've been speaking of medication and drugs that aid depression, which is why you were going to do the Ibogaine. Exercising more. Believe me, like I use that term lightly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been like walking, you know, just brisk walking. I've been pretty much doing that every night. I try to, and I do feel like amazingly better. It's phenomenal how quickly it works too, and I learned that from that YouTube that TED Talk that I sent you about that guy who's a doctor about where depression is a... Also, I love this whole concept of, like, depression is a disease of civilization, which I've always suspected, you know, like, because it doesn't exist in, like, tribal cultures, indigenous cultures.
Yeah.
It literally does not exist. Like, people get sad when something bad happens to them, which you would, and then they get over it. But no, there isn't, like, a disease where people are just sad all the time and hate themselves in indigenous cultures, because it's basically a disease that's created by the way we live. Like, you know, we sit in cubicles and stare at screens and eat processed food and separate ourselves from each other as much as possible.
And don't engage in anything that has any meaning.
Yeah, exactly. But they have found that just 30 minutes of brisk walking 3 days a week significantly decreases depression. Yeah.
Really?
They did a test on that. And it was actually the 30 minutes of brisk walking 3 days a week actually had a greater effect than Zoloft. They tested it against Zoloft on a group of clinically depressed people.
I believe it. It's that whole food and lifestyle as medicine thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I'm gonna keep doing that and. Also, just jacking it a lot, you know. That's exercise. Just jacking it.
It's real good for you.
Yeah,
it's real good for you.
Yeah, it's real good. Yeah.
I went to an exercise class on Tuesday night, and I gotta tell you about this. I don't know if I can even articulate how fucking weird it was. So I went to this thing called Pure Barre, which I thought was like a ballet workout.
I know exactly what that is.
I did not.
My cousin's girlfriend teaches it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well. It is fucking weird. I thought I was going to a ballet class, and it's like a skinny white lady cult.
Yes.
It was like a room full of Gwyneth Paltrow and Kate Hudson types.
Yes.
And I roll in looking like a troll, as I do. And then it's like no one talks. It's like very like silent. Really? And they all know how everything works, and no one like explains to you how things work. And then you do this workout, and they don't explain the movements. They're just like... it's the weirdest fucking thing. It is the weirdest fucking thing. I can't. It was like being at a cult, and it's really, really hard. It is a hot room, and it's really hard. And I wanted to leave 20 minutes in, but then she said we were doing good enough that she would turn on the fans, and that helped a lot.
Oh my god, that is very cult-like.
Yes. And the words of encouragement are pretty fucking fantastic. So there's like a move where you're on your hands and knees, and you've got a ball between one of your knees, and you're squeezing the ball with your knee and lifting that leg like a dog peeing. Okay. And you're doing really small movements with it, very tiny movements. And so the instructor, who's a very skinny woman wearing a headset, is like, so tiny, so tight, so beautiful, so tiny, so tight, so beautiful. And like I'm like on my hands and knees with my pussy out, and I am like collapsed laughing on the floor, and no one around me is like, and I'm like, okay, well, we're just all, and so we're doing these.
So you actually laughed and no one else laughed?
No one. My friend, I went with a friend, and she was dying laughing too. I just kept looking back at her, and it was good to go the first time with a friend so we could make eye contact and be like, what is this? And there were moments where I was like, so we're leaving, right? Because, like, you have to be in, like, triathlon shape, really, to do this class.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous. And so... I wanted to leave like 1,000 times during it because I was like, this is fucking weird and creepy and I'm dying. But then afterwards, I was like, I'm probably going to go back because that was the best workout ever.
Oh, no. You're gonna become one of those people.
I don't think so because I can't afford to because it's $100 a month for a membership or $25 a month for a class.
Oh, wow.
And my job reimburses some health stuff, so I could theoretically I could go twice a month, and that's probably all that I need. But yeah, I just like it was the weirdest fucking thing. And you're doing all these like very sensual like humpy motions, but like and I was in a room full of people with perfect beautiful bodies, and I'm like, I know these women are all frigid. That's the waste of this class, is that these women have these amazing bodies that can do these things that they're doing, and you know they're all dead fish in bed. Unless they aren't, unless that's the secret.
I don't know. I mean, there is a weird awkwardness about like when whenever I talk to a woman that's like just like perfect like that.
Yeah.
For one thing, I'm just like a sweaty, nervous wreck. Even like it's weird, even like talking to someone
Yeah.
who's that good looking. Even if I'm talking to like a really good looking man, I'm just like, hey.
Yeah, because it's like another species.
Yeah, you feel like such a loser, and like God, I feel disgusting standing next to you right now. But yeah, I do feel like there's like a weird sort of like awkwardness with really good looking women. You know, where you have to wonder like, yeah, are you really like, do you have a personality? So.
But now I understand why, like, you know what, men, because these are the type of women that like men buy them cars and meals and clothes and boobs and whatever. And I go, you know what? If you are spending $100 a month and doing this several times a week, you deserve free things. You're putting in work.
Yeah.
So you know what? Yes, you do. You deserve a new outfit if a guy wants to take you shopping, or
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, because you are applying yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, my cousin who lives in California with his parents. He lives with my aunt and uncle, and I don't know him that well. He's young. He's like 25. But his girlfriend, we've only met a couple times. She teaches Pure Barre. I didn't really know what it is. I just know that, and she's very skinny, like tiny. She's she's the size and weight of that water bottle right there. Yeah, and I mean, I think she's maybe 5 feet tall and like maybe 90 pounds.
Yep.
And I'm just anyway, and then so my cousin's sister, who's also my cousin, because that's how that works.
Oh, okay.
I was there at Christmas, and she was visiting from Washington State, and so she went to her brother's girlfriend's Pure Barre class, and then she came back, and she was covered in sweat.
Yeah.
And she was like, and she's in really good shape, my female cousin. And she goes, that was fucking intense. Like, it was crazy, yeah.
It's like 0% body fat and just every single muscle is defined. And it's so funny because I thought I was going to a ballet class where it'd be slow and meditative and kind of I would focus on my form and movement. I had no idea because I was going to try to meet up with that person that I'm want to have sex with all the time, who doesn't like me anymore. I was going to try to meet
allegedly,
all in my head or not.
Yeah.
But I was going to try to meet up with him afterwards because I had even said like, I have a ballet class from 7 to 8, but I can come over afterwards. And I was even thinking, like, I probably won't even have to shower because I'm just going to ballet class. Like, and then cut to, like, 20 minutes in, and I am dripping sweat, and I am, like, bright red and, like, dying. And I'm like, I'm really glad he couldn't meet up tonight because I probably can't even walk, let alone, like...
Yeah.
You know, ride some dick.
Sure, yeah. That's what I've really enjoyed about... I used to belong to a gym that I hardly ever went to, but one thing I'm really enjoying about all this hiking and walking I've been doing is that there are no mirrors outside, and boy, do I love that. I really hate seeing myself. When I went to that boxing class like a month ago, which was the hardest workout I've ever done in my entire life, and... yeah, I looked like I saw myself. I was really trying to not look at myself in the mirrors that were on the wall because my face was so red that I thought like, there's no way I'm not going to have a stroke right now. Like I shouldn't be this color. Like this is not normal. Like it was just and the coach kept he's like, "You all right, man? You all right?" And I'm all like, "I certainly don't look like I'm doing all right, but I think I'm okay." And I also kept farting. Like one thing I've found is that when I exercise really hard, I sure do fart.
You sure do fart?
Yeah. Stirs up the pot.
But I feel like if you exercise enough, and I think this is actually medically true, it helps regulate your bowels.
Oh yeah,
so
sure.
if you exercise regularly,
I'll stop farting so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just stopped eating, and that's really helped me stop farting.
Yeah. It would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now that I'm under threat of being seen naked, it's been
under threat.
This is why it's just easier for me to respect myself if I'm going to be held accountable. So now that I'm under threat of being naked, it's a lot easier to just not eat a bunch of garbage because I'm like, I want to look good.
Just do what I do and just say that, I have this kink I'm really specific about, which is you have to be blindfolded.
You have to be blindfolded. Yeah.
I only do blindfold sex. And only you are going to be blindfolded.
So I asked a friend this once about... so awful. I can't believe I'm going to say this. So I asked a friend this once. I was like, how often do you fart when you come? Like, you just come so hard and all your muscles are, like, flexing and stuff.
I don't think I ever have that I can remember.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
is that a thing?
No, I've never done it. Never.
Well, I mean, it's probably the mechanism is different for men and women. So,
yeah, because like as a woman, like your whole because it's all internal, and so you're having everything's like kind of flexing and contracting inside.
Yeah,
and so
I think you physically can't as a man. Like I want to say you can't. I think like everything contracts.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like nothing. Only one thing is coming out at that point.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure.
Interesting. I saw an interview with who's the guy, the comedian who had that FX show, Legit. He's Australian.
Is it Legit? Is it him?
No.
I don't.
No.
That
was dumb. That was
a
really
terrible
dumb.
joke. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
I saw him. I think on Nikki Glazer's show, and he was talking about this woman he had sex with, who was like just the toughest bitch ever. That like she just came real hard and she squirted everywhere, and also there was like a little piece of poop on the bed.
Oh my god!
And when he was like, "Oh my god," she was like, "Toughen up." She was like, "It happens."
I've never seen that happen.
No, that's a move that I've never done, and I'm really happy.
Yeah,
I would just.
I mean, maybe it's me. Maybe I haven't rung that bell, hard enough to ever induce that. Induce a poop.
I did once. This is fucking terrible. So I dated someone who had 2 dogs, and they slept in his bed. Mm. And after sex, like I rolled over, and there was something brown in the bed, and I freaked the fuck out. It was a piece of dog food. Oh. Like the dog had dropped it in the bed, which still is really fucking gross.
Did you think it was dog poop or your poop or his poop or somebody's poop?
I thought there was someone's poop in the bed, and I was like, oh, and it was just dog food.
You know what? I love dogs, but never, and I don't own one now. But I mean, I've never been a fan of. I don't advocate the sleeping with the dogs. I never wanted to do that.
Yeah.
I guess it depends if you have smaller dogs. I had a big dog as a kid, and she always wanted to get in bed with me, and I was like, nope.
I used to, I have Chihuahuas, and I even for a year or two wouldn't let them sleep in my bed because I just was like, I didn't want to train them that they could be in my bed because I feel like if you want a man in your life, you need to make room in your life for a man. So you can't have dogs in your bed.
Well, yeah. Plus, I think it's just disgusting. Like, yeah. I mean, when you go to someone's house that you are going to do the sex on, and
there's dog fur.
There's like dog fur everywhere. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing too. Is like when you live with animals. Yeah. For a while, you don't realize like how animal-y, your house is, and
I do.
Not that yours is. Yours actually isn't. I'm
a neat freak, but still, like, so like.
But a lot of people are not as neat as you are, and I've had sex with those people. And when you go to their house, and you're like, and I'm like, oh, what? There's like fur everywhere, and it's not just like I've dated a lot of cat women, so
oh no,
it's always like there's cat fur everywhere. And
my last boyfriend, I would like go home from his house after having sex, and there would just be like I. Go to pee and pull down my underwear, and there's just like dog hair stuck to my pussy. Fucking disgusting. Fucking terrible.
Yeah, that is awful.
He had border collies that he let sleep in his bed. Yeah, it's fucking terrible. So now,
yeah, I'm not having sex in a zoo or in a barn, or in a menagerie. There's other words I could use. Other words.
Now, because I have all of my sex off-site, all of the sex that I have,
off-site.
I have it all off-site. My dogs do sleep in my bed now, but also I'm never home, and I feel really bad. I feel like I neglect them, so it'd be really mean if I was only home for like 2 hours a night, and then I like went to bed and locked them out. So my dogs do sleep in bed with me, but I do not bring men over to my house. And I wash my dogs every 2 weeks, and I change my sheets every week, which I think helps. Yeah. But still, like sometimes I'll just see Felipe sitting in my bed, and I'm all, look at you, what you up to? You just shedding on my bed? Just getting fur all over everything, aren't you? Because that's what they do. They ruin things. Yeah,
they really do. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I were bringing tricks home to my place, I wouldn't have dogs in my bed. But I don't, because I date people who have better houses than me, and I go to their house.
Almost every single woman that I've dated has been a cat owner, and I'm allergic to cats.
Oh.
So I have this McNulty saying that I've been saying for years, which is like, it's now at the point where every time I sneeze, I think I'm going to get laid. I'm like, well, my allergies are killing me, and then I start getting an erection like immediately.
Oh my god!
It must be time for sex because like. I'm so allergic to cats. I've gotten better as I've gotten older, as far as like building up a tolerance.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I was younger, I was really super allergic to cats, and every single girl that I dated or just fucked like had cats, plural. And it was always like I would go over, and they always want to be at their house, and I was always
why?
I don't know. And I
just feel like I want to be at the house, and listen. I love animals, and by that I mean dogs, and by that I mean cute dogs. But I want to be at the house where there's no animals, there's no one else there. Like you go to whoever's house doesn't have roommates, right? Having pets is like having roommates. So why are you going to go hang out when you're going to have roommates around? You want privacy.
I mean, it's very difficult also to get aroused when you're like literally just sneezing, your eyes are burning, you know, like I go over there and it's like my eyes are red and burning and I'm sneezing and I'm all like, you know, is that a guy you want on you who's doing that? It's like someone's got the flu and you're trying to sleep with them, you know.
How dare you?
Yeah, which is awful.
I didn't.
It is also gross to me when, and this hasn't happened to me in a long time because I haven't been in like that close of a relationship in a long time, but where, you know, your partner is very sick or you are very sick.
Yeah.
And they just want to like cuddle with you and I'm like, no, you're sick. Or I'm sick. Like if I'm sick, like I just get away from me. Like you just go in the other. Don't sleep.
You want to be alone. Yeah. You're a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know. So interesting. You should say that because we live alone, and both of us, when the other person was sick, has dropped off supplies to that person because
that's right.
It sucks when you're sick and you live alone, and like I've done it for you. I've done it.
You brought me toilet paper.
I brought you toilet paper once. I've done it, and I've done it for more than one friend, and so the guy that I'm obsessed with and will be until he gets a restraining order, who he's sick. I texted him. I was like, hey, if you need me to drop supplies off outside your door, I'll do that. I know how it is to be sick and alone. And he didn't respond. He hates me. But I...
Nice.
Yeah. I'm all, why you ain't talking to me? You sick? You too busy throwing up to talk to me?
Come on.
Come on. Let me...
Give on.
But like, I was like, I understand, like, you don't want anyone to... I didn't... but you don't want anyone to see you when you're sick.
Yeah.
So when I bring supplies to sick people, I just leave it outside the door.
Yeah.
And then you run because you don't want their germs and they don't want you to see them. I don't want people to see me when I'm all sick and vulnerable.
No, it's awful. I remember you did that for me, and Phil, my friend Phil, came over one time when I had a really bad flu, and he brought me some stuff, you know, and that was actually that was like that's the last time I had a flu, which was like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was. I think the worst flu I've ever had in my life. Like, it was just so bad. Like, and I mean, like this fever was raging through me, and it was at a point where, you know, like when I don't buy that many groceries anyway.
Yeah.
But I had just nothing. I'd hit like, okay, here's the end point. Like I was on E. Like I had nothing in the house at all.
And that's when you get sick.
And that's when you get like so sick to where I can't even get out of bed. And I'm like, wow, this is just perfect. So yeah. So I'm texting Phil because he lives close to me, and I'm like, dude. I barely knew him at this point. Like, I think I just met him like once through our mutual friend Paul, and I was like, I'm just texting you because you live next door to me, but can you please bring me some medicine and or some food, and I swear to God I'll pay you back, you know. And he did. He brought me some cans of soup, and he brought me some like NyQuil, I think.
Yeah.
You know. And,
it means a lot.
It does. It's huge. And then you brought me TP when I was pissing out my asshole that time.
Yeah, and then
which was also huge. Yeah.
Yeah, and you brought whatever was left over back to me when
that's right.
the same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's because otherwise you're just shit out of luck. I mean, I guess now there's Postmate and stuff.
Oh, it's like a delivery
It's like an
service?
app, where they can bring you anything. I don't have it or use it, but there is that now. But that's very, very new. Because up until that point, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Where you're like, I just need saltines and Gatorade, and like, I can't drive.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's the worst.
Yeah. That's what friends are for.
When I get sick too, people talk about like when you're on your deathbed, you think about all the things you should have done with your life or whatever, like. Oh, and you want to reach out to your kids that you treated badly. Like, I swear to God, like every time I get sick, I go through that. Like, I'm sick, and I start thinking, man, I've just been focusing on the wrong things in life, and I should have done this, and I should have done that, and so it's weird. I don't know if it's because I'm, as a depressed person, always thinking about death or just because my life sucks. And I have to get sick to realize.
And then it's like, I mean, I do that if you're like, when I'm healthy, I'm going to do this, that, all these things I've been putting off, like, because you can't do it because you're so sick. Then you're like, when I'm able-bodied again, I'm going to appreciate being able-bodied, and I'm going to do those things. And then, that works.
And then you don't. Yeah.
Then you don't. Yeah. I've been doing pretty good at that. It's because I'm running from my feelings. You never know. I've been like not depressed for a long time, and by that I mean like a week. Yeah. And I think it's probably just because number one, I'm microdosing. With the awesome. Mushrooms. Yeah. And I'm working out, and I'm just also like constantly busy. I've been booking something like every night after work where I have to do something. Yeah, it's very helpful. Yeah. It is. Yeah. And I was talking to a friend who she is sober. She did the AA thing, and she was like, I understand that, but my question always is, what happens when it stops? Like, if you're happy all the time, what happens when it stops? And I was like, that's a valid point, right? Okay, so...
Yeah, why would it stop, though? Why would you stop doing things?
Exactly, that's what I said. I said, there's running from your feelings, or there's just staying busy and engaged in the world so you feel purpose. So if I was running from my feelings, maybe I'd be out at the bar every night getting wasted. But if I'm constantly engaging in different activities and doing different things and just staying on the move, I don't know if that necessarily equates to running from my feelings. It's probably more like that TED Talk where I'm just living like a person should be, which is being active.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, it's different for people that have kids and spouse, because you come home, you're like, gotta take care of my kids, like that, But if you don't have that and you live alone, then you have to stay active. You have to make an effort to stay active, because I can speak from experience. Coming home every night and just laying on the couch and watching TV
it feels awful.
Will destroy your mental sanity. Destroy it, and you won't even realize it's happening. It'll just be like, why do I feel like shit all the time?
Yeah, and then you don't want to do anything or like anything that would make you feel better. You're not going to do it because you're not in motion and you're too depressed.
Yeah.
You
got to stay busy.
You have to.
If you don't stay busy, you're crazy.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
I don't think it's running from anything. I think it's running towards
something.
Running toward life.
Yeah, I call it engaging with the world. Because if you're going home alone, does feel awful, and I don't think it. Not that it always feels awful, or I have a fear of being alone. Obviously, I love living alone. But like just going home alone and then staring at a screen is obviously emotionally unfulfilling. Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, of course.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so to be like, why am I unhappy? It's like, well, duh.
Yeah.
So
because we don't live in a close-knit tribe where everyone's taking care of each other and growing food together or gathering food together or hunting food together or just basically being together, which is what actually makes humans happy.
Yeah.
So, and I think even if you have a family and even if you like your family, it's very hard because the way that we live is everyone is like separated into their own little world. So you come home and it's like my spouse, my kids, and that's it. And the world is like the door is closed, the TV's on, there's like nothing else,
Yeah, you're not really engaged. You're not engaged with the world, and you're not really engaged with each other because everyone's just on their own media devices or whatever. So it goes back to why, like, I was told that my favorite type of fun, my friend said, you like Christian youth group fun. And they weren't wrong in that. And because I do. I like engaging with other people in activities.
Yeah. I concur.
Sexual activities.
Totally.
Yeah.
I don't really like, I feel like I don't like engaging with other people. But that could just be my natural instinct to reject everyone.
Yeah.
I like, when my buddy Robert first started, this is an interesting relationship. So I have this friend named Robert, and who listens to this podcast, by the way, sometimes anyway. And I met him through, I was friends with his girlfriend first for many years, Chrissy. She's like a family friend, and she's pretty much a cousin. Anyway, she started dating this guy, Robert, and then they got serious, and they moved in together, and then Robert and I just became buddies. And he's like a super outgoing, super nice guy. He's actually probably the nicest, most outgoing person I've ever met. Yeah. And he always, and he's very almost like Christian youth pastor, where he'll be like, hey man, what's going on? Hey, you want to go hiking with me? You know, like he's like, how about you and I go fishing? And he's like, and I mean, you're just like, it's kind of contagious. You're like, okay, I'll do these things with you. And then at first I was like, I'm not going to like this. Like, I don't want to go like walking with someone, because a lot of my walking I've been doing with him, because he's like, let's go walking, you know, let's go hiking, whatever. And we go walk together, and actually it is nice because we just chat, you know, and also we joke and we make fun of people that we see and stuff. And so, you know, it's fun, and you're like, yeah, people are good. Yet I still don't, like, my instinct is like, I don't like people, like, I hate them, but then I get around them, like, hey, they're good. People are good. I'm going
to find the podcast episode. Comedian Shane Moss has a podcast called Here We Are, and he interviews scientists. So when he's on tour for comedy, he interviews scientists from universities in whatever city he's at. And there was one, and his main thing is, like, social sciences and evolutionary biology and stuff. And so the one scientist was talking about this study they did where they tested it on the train for people who commute into Chicago for work. There's a name for that train.
Metra.
The Metro?
Metra. Yeah.
So, and what they did was they asked people, both the active participators in the test who were asked to do things, and then passive people who were just people on the train, whether or not they wanted strangers to talk to them on the train.
Okay. Yeah.
And across the board, everyone said no.
Of course.
Everyone said no. So the people who were the active participators, they were instructed to start a conversation with someone else on the train. Everyone was interviewed afterwards. Yeah. And the people who both initiated or the people who were on the receiving end of a random conversation, all at the end of their day stated that they were in a better mood than the people who had not had a random conversation on the train. And no one attributed it to the fact that they had this human interaction, which is so interesting. So it speaks to the fact that we think we don't want to talk to strangers.
Right.
We all think we don't want to do it. We don't want to engage. We don't want to be bothered. Yeah. And we also think that people don't want us to bother them.
Yes.
However, the people who were spoken to universally didn't have a problem that a stranger started a conversation with them. Yeah. And both the starters and the receivers, we'll call them, all had a better day. Yeah. And no one had any idea it was because they had a human interaction.
That totally makes sense to me, but I think the reason why people say they don't want a stranger to talk to them is because most of the time in our society, when someone does randomly talk to you, there's something wrong with that person.
There's something wrong with them,
especially in an urban environment like Chicago. You know, it's like, hey man, you know, the aliens are coming. You know, I'm like, oh god. You know?
Well, you know why? Because because the study said people think. We think no one wants us to strike up a conversation with them. Yeah. We have a fear that they're not going to want us to talk to them. But you know who doesn't have a fear of social rejection?
Crazy people.
Crazy people.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I always joke that because I'm the type of person where I don't necessarily initiate it, but I always have conversations with strangers in checkout lines and at the post office. I'm always having, and when I moved to New York, my friend was like, within 2 weeks, I knew all of her neighbors, and she's all, how do you know my neighbors? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm really good at that random person conversation deal. Building long-term intimate relationships. I'm a little touch and go at it, but the randos.
You and I are exactly the same way. I'm very good at surface level relationships. I'm also, have I ever told you this, that I'm the direction guy?
You're the direction guy.
If you need if I'm anywhere, see, this doesn't happen as much anymore, I think, because of cell phones and GPS, but basically for a long time, if you needed directions, you saw me on the street, you would ask me.
Is it because you're so approachable?
I don't know.
They're just like that. There's just a standard male.
It was like a thing with me when I lived in Chicago. I would get asked directions all the time.
Really?
Yeah. And it was one thing, okay, and I'm not counting, because I was a tour guide for a while, and so there was times where I was obviously like driving a trolley and wearing a uniform.
That makes sense.
I'm not counting, I don't count those, because obviously you're going to ask the trolley driver. But no, I mean, as soon as I moved to Chicago, the first week, I got asked for directions 3 times in the first week I lived there, which I thought was some kind of omen, that I belonged there, because people were like, "Oh, can you tell me where this is?" And then it just kept happening, and after I'd moved back to Arizona, and I'd been back like 3 years, and I'm like, I'm going to go for a visit. I'm going to go visit my friend Chris Hauser. So it was Memorial Weekend, and I just went out just for 3 days, just for the weekend. And I got there, and I was really excited to be, and the weather was beautiful. And so I was staying at my friend Chris and his wife's apartment, and he's like, hey, what do you want to do today? And I was like, it's so nice. Let's go to Grant Park. I haven't been there in 3 years. I want to go to Grant Park. So we go down to Grant Park. And as soon as we walk in, step into the park, I saw these two Asian women, and they looked at me.
And they zeroed in on you?
Yeah, and we're talking like, Grant Park is like Central Park, There's people everywhere, it's not like a remote thing. And I looked at my friend Chris and I said, they're going to ask me for directions. and he just kind of smiled and he's like, okay. And they walked up to us and they both asked me. They did not even look at Chris, who was standing right next to me. And they're both like, excuse me, can you tell me? Like they were Japanese and like, tell me where. And they asked me something, and I'm like, actually, I don't know where that is, but he probably does because he lives here, And I said to Chris, I'm like, and he actually said to me, how'd you know they were going to ask you? And I was like, because that's what people do.
That's what they do.
And I don't know why it is, and I have a couple theories, and one is just that I think that being a short man somehow makes me
less intimidating
or approachable. I don't know, or maybe I just have a friendly face.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm the direction guy. Yeah.
You should when you're auditioning for commercials, like that should be kind of your thing. Like that, I don't know how we would brand that, but Scott McNulty. He's the man you want to ask for directions.
Well, the best part was when I first moved to the city and people asked me things. I didn't know where anything was.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I don't know where that is. Like people would ask me, like, what is this the train that goes? I'm like, I don't know.
People ask me that a lot in New York when I was in. So my internship was like on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And I look like a fucking weirdo. And I probably look like, if I wasn't born and raised there, that I'd been there a long time.
Yeah.
I had that native New York eccentric look.
Yeah.
And so people were always, not in Midtown or anything, people weren't asking me for directions because they're like, she ain't from around the corner. But lower Manhattan, they were like constantly. And I'm like, okay, I guess. Yeah, I look like I belong here.
Yeah, I think. Well, you and we have similar personalities. Maybe there's just something that just
maybe
comes
people
out.
can read it that they can say like, this person is nice and friendly.
Yeah.
Because I did once this. It was like 3 a.m. and the subway wasn't running, like, because half the trains stop and you have to take a different train.
Yeah.
And this really cute. I thought he was gay. I thought he was a Twinkie gay boy. This really cute boy was like, I'm so drunk and I can't find my way home. Can you help me? And I was like, where are you going? And it turned out we lived in the same neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, come with me. And so I walked with him to another train and let him kind of like fall asleep on my shoulder on the subway, which I would have done none of this if I thought I was talking to a heterosexual
of course,
man. But I'm like, he's gay. It's fine. He's a hairdresser, right?
Yeah.
And so, because he was. And so I let him know exactly what corner I lived on because he was one corner past me in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
So I've now let this stranger fall asleep on me. I've let them know
you told him where you lived.
Exactly where I live.
Oh my God.
And yeah, it turns out it wasn't gay. But we became friends, and he did my hair a couple times.
Oh, did he ask you out or after that, or
no? I can't remember how it happened. If we exchanged numbers or because I didn't have a smartphone then, so I don't think we Facebooked on the train or anything. So we must have exchanged phone numbers because I was like, I need someone to do my hair. And
you know how that's kind of, it reminds me of how I became friends with, I know a lot of Chris's. This was my friend Chris Churchill. So when I went to go apply for my trolley driver job in Chicago, I hadn't lived there that long. I went down, it was down on the south side, and I filled out an application, and then I think I don't know if I had an interview then. I think I just filled out the application and turned it in, and then I left. Anyway, later that afternoon, there was an improv group audition that I wanted to go to. I'm like, yeah, this new improv troupe is forming.
Yeah.
So I was walking to this audition. I was trying to find it, and I'm walking around some neighborhood I'd never been in before, and this red minivan pulls up next to me, and this guy, like, he rolls down the passenger. He's like, hey, I'm looking. Can you tell me where? Again, direction. He's like, I'm looking for this place, and I go, that's the place that I'm looking for, and he goes, oh, are you going to the audition? And I go, yeah, and then he looks at me, he kind of cocks his head, and he goes, did you fill out an application to the trolley company today?
Oh my God, how funny!
Yeah, so that's Chris Churchill became my best friend for 6 years because he worked at the trolley company and he was an actor and a comedian. So we were going. He saw me fill out the application, and we were going to the same audition, and we both auditioned together. We both got rejected. But I got in his van.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm going to get in your van with you. We're going to find this place. So
that is amazing. You know, that reminds me of one of my favorite stories, which is, okay, I really love Garfield. And after I moved back here from New York, I was visiting my friend out there, and we were out on the town, her husband and me, and I was wearing a Garfield sweatshirt. And I was out front of the bar, and this guy, like, kind of nerdy, mid-30s guy comes up to me. He's like, yo, man, you gotta sell me that Garfield shirt. Like, I love Garfield. I'm all about him. And I was like, I really like this. This is my favorite sweatshirt. He's like, you don't even know. I got, like, all the Pez dispensers. I got a Garfield shower curtain. I got the clock. You ever seen the clock?
You ever seen the clock?
I swear to God, I'm not exaggerating. He's like, you ever seen the clock? I got the clock. I got the phone.
What do you do, like, take your shirt off and sell it to him right there in the street?
Well, I mean, I was wearing a shirt underneath of it. It was a sweatshirt. And he was singing, like, a song from a Garfield. He's like, you know that song in the Halloween Garfield episode that's like...
Oh, my God.
And then he's like, you know who I never liked? That pink cat. Like, he was amazing. And he's like, I don't live too far from here. We got to go back to my place. I got to show you.
Oh, my God.
And I was ready. And I was sober at this time. I was not drinking, but I was ready to go back. I wanted to see the clock.
Yeah, sure.
He has the clock.
He's got a Garfield clock.
So, and I told my friend, I was like, dude, Jessa, we're going back to this guy's house. He's got the clock. And she's like, okay, well, let me go get my husband. She goes in the bar, gets her husband, and her husband's like, and he's British, and he's like, you're not going back to his house. Like, that was a really bad accent, but he's like, he wouldn't let us. And so I had to say goodbye to this guy that I had, like,
well, if the husband came with you, it'd be okay, I think.
Nah, he was a pussy or something. I don't know. He's like, yeah, you're not going back to a stranger's house. And I'm like, dude, he obviously, it would have to be a really elaborate pickup scenario to be like, yo, sell me your shirt. And that's how he's trying to, like, get with me.
I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, sell me your shirt. I mean, it has happened because I did once, did I tell you about when I surrendered my shirt to the homosexuals? I've given shirts that I'm wearing away before.
Really?
Under different scenarios. So once I had this boyfriend for like a minute when I was 15, and then when I was 25, we got like matched up on a dating site, and I was like, oh, let's go on a date, right?
That's funny,
It's been 10 years, why not? And before our date, I had a friend's going away party, and it was at this gay bar called Charlie's, which is amazing. It's like a giant...
I've been there, yeah.
It's a giant cowboy gay bar, and they used to do 3-for-1 Sundays, which is like bad news. Yeah,
that is bad news.
You buy one drink, and they give you 2 vouchers to bring back. And like gays love me. They, they think I'm like Lady Gaga, and they're like, give me your bracelet, give me your this, blah, blah, blah. So I was wearing this shirt that I had made for the night. And my friend, when I was saying goodbye, was like, you got to give me your shirt. You have to give me your shirt. You have to. I need it. And so I just take my shirt off. I give it to my friend. My date was picking me up in the parking lot of this bar.
Yeah.
So I walk out to see this guy that I haven't seen in a decade.
In just your bra?
I was wearing a bra and a denim jacket. And I just, and I'd been drinking, so I just said to him, I surrendered my shirt to the homosexuals. We're going to need to stop by my house before we go to dinner.
How did the date go?
Really well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Really well. But just like in case he was thinking maybe I had changed or matured or like mellowed
You're like,
out.
Nope.
Nope.
So you got crunk at a gay bar before going on a date? That's pretty amazing.
Well, I wasn't going to not go to my friend's party, and I wasn't going to not drink because this was during my drinking days where,
I went to that gay bar with my friend Gay Mario, who I used to work with, and for drag night, the drag night lip syncing thing, and it was pretty exciting, and like it was a lot of action going on, and we were there with it was actually really cool because Gay Mario had this lesbian friend, I can't remember her name, and she was dating a woman, obviously.
Yeah,
and that's how lesbians work.
That's what lesbians do.
She was but her girlfriend was a Phoenix homicide detective.
What?
Yeah, and I was like fascinated because I've never met a homicide detective.
Yes.
Before or since. And she was really cool. She was exactly what you would think a homicide detective would be like.
God.
She was like, she reminded me of Greg's from The Wire.
Okay, yep,
And only not black. She was white, but she was basically like a white version of Greg's. And I just picked her brain nonstop. I wouldn't stop talking to her about bodies and stuff. I'm like, so what's it like when you first come on the scene and there's a body there, you know? And she's like, well, you know, that's my job. I'm kind of used to it now, you know? I was like, yeah, but I mean, you're like, oh, I'm just going to go into work, getting my coffee, and there's a dead guy, you know? And she's like, yeah. It's basically, and, but it was really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so.
I used to go to Charlie's a lot. I was dating this guy, because that's how heterosexuality works. But
weird.
We would go to gay bars a lot, and we would go to Charlie's to go country line dancing.
Yep.
And he also always wanted, he knows this. His sexuality had to have been questionable because we always went to gay bars and he would always like flirt with bears and get drinks and stuff. And then we would go home to fuck and he would want me to do stuff to his butt. And I was like, I can't.
Wow.
Yeah. He was into being pegged.
Ooh, yeah.
And I never did that. See, this is why it didn't work out between us because he was like almost like butt exclusive. Like he wanted to eat ass and have his ass eaten and be fucked in the ass and fuck in the ass. And I don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And
I'm also anti-butt.
Yeah, I don't do butt stuff. He did eat my butt once, and I just like was like, I can't ever kiss you ever again because I'm just thinking. Like, I have a clean butt, like, but it doesn't matter how clean your butt is. I just was, like, looking at his goatee and being like, there's butt in there.
Yeah.
So,
there's butt in there.
There's butt in there somewhere.
There's butt in them there goatees.
Yeah. And then, like, seriously, a week after we officially ended things, I started a new job, and it turned out he was dating a girl who worked there. And, like, that's who he dated after me, was someone who worked at this place. He was dating her before I got the job, but, and so every time I would work with her, I would just be like, she's just eating butt and her butt eating. I was just like, I know what you do after work, and it involves butt.
A lot of butt.
There's a lot of butt in your life. Yeah, I'm all because he's really happy with you. You guys seem kind of happy together, which means that you're doing that butt stuff.
I guess so. Yeah, I realized not that I ever wanted to, but I realized I definitely could never be pegged because when I went to see our mutual proctologist. When I went to see her, and then she put that little scope up my butt.
Oh, yeah, the anoscope.
Yeah, that hurt way more than I expected it to.
Well,
and I was all like, oh, God! And I was like, I do not like this at all. Not at all.
Number one, there was no foreplay to relax it. There was no gentle licking on the outside to open it up. But number two, I hope you don't mind if I disclose this, but you had an anal fissure, which is like the most painful thing in the entire world. That's like having a portal to hell in your butthole.
You know what? It's not really that bad. I didn't even fill the prescription for the stuff I was supposed to get. Yeah.
Oh.
I keep forgetting about it, actually. So, but I am going for my colonoscopy next Tuesday.
Oh,
so
that'll be fun for you.
Yeah. Marilyn, crazy Marilyn's taking me.
Crazy Marilyn.
My mom, she wants to come spend the night here, and I was like, that's a terrible idea, you know. Yeah, I was like, I don't think.
It is a far drive, but.
Well, yeah.
What time's your colonoscopy at?
8:30 in the morning on Tuesday. Yeah. So.
That's what time do you have to be at the hospital? 8:30?
Yeah, 8:30 is my check-in time.
Oh, then your mom would have to leave at what, 6 in the morning to get here on time?
Yeah, something like that. That's what we were talking about.
That's really not that bad.
Yeah,
that's not that bad.
Actually, she started realizing that. I think that's what she's going to do.
Yeah.
I was like, you're not going to be comfortable here. That couch is not comfortable.
No, you don't have a couch for sleeping.
No, you can barely sit on that thing.
Yeah.
Jesus Cristo.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I speak French now, but that was Spanish.
This podcast is so educational. This is like I really hope that we have an audience of listeners of color who just like view this as anthropological research as to like what are white people up to.
We're up to this.
This is What are white people doing with their time? And they're like, oh God, no.
I work with 2 2.5 Hispanic men, and two full-on Mexicans and 1/2, and they're always like talking about me. Like I am like their study. I am like their study in whiteness, and especially though Alfonso is from Yuma and has lived a very sheltered life.
Oh yeah, Yuma's a small town.
Yeah, and
for our international listeners.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, so why do white people do this? Like he'll ask me stuff like that, and but then also one of the greatest compliments that was ever been paid to me was one time where me and the two Mexicans and this other Hispanic woman that we work with, we all went to lunch together. We went to Juan's, and so we're all in the car leaving the restaurant, and they were talking about white people, and I was all like how they're not cool, and I was like, yeah, but what about me though? And they're like, oh no, we don't consider you white. Like, and I was
that's always the biggest compliment.
I know. I was like, that's the best thing ever.
For a liberal, if you're trying to butter a liberal white person's bread, tell us that you don't think of us as white, or that you forget that we're white.
It's orgasmic.
That is like, in Scientology, like when you reach the top, you become clear.
Right.
For liberal white people, that is us feeling like we've reached a level of clear, is when you tell us that you forget that we're white. Because we know that we're the worst. Like, we just fucking know it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah.
If you try to act like we transcend that, and it's so funny because if you tell a person of color that, like, you don't see them as, black or whatever,
that's
like
an insult.
It's so
pretty insulting.
It's so awful and condescending.
Yeah.
It's like the worst fucking thing you could say. But then you say it to a liberal white person, and they're like, "Oh my god, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I've finally done it. I've achieved it." Oh.
Yeah. All right. Well, plus I'm always saying kill whitey all the time.
Yeah, you gotta kill whitey.
Yeah.
So I have a new place that I sit at work, and I sit next to someone who like sings to themselves, and I thought that was going to be a real fucking problem. Except for now I realize that he mutters Wu-Tang under his breath all the time, and it makes me think of you, so I'm like totally okay with it. Yeah.
Or did I tell you about that time where I was at the Swizzle Inn where I did that?
Yeah.
Yeah. To a black man, he was just sitting there. I just looked at him. This was an example of bad white people behavior where I'm sitting at a bar getting drunk, and there's a black man sitting next to me, and we had been talking just sort of casually, casual conversation. I don't know what it is he said. He said something to me, and I just looked at him, and I just went, Wu-Tang! And I put the hand symbol in his face.
Well, and every time you went back there afterwards, anyone who would recognize you would just say, "There's Wu-Tang!"
Yeah, exactly.
That place.
Yeah. I was just there, I think last Friday I went there again. Yeah.
You go there often?
I don't. I stopped going after you stopped working there. But then I started going back recently because it's cheap.
It is cheap. Yeah. It's cheap. It has a good vibe. You don't have to put on airs to be
there.
It's
an almost lesbian bar.
It is.
It's like sometimes there are lesbians there, but not always.
Don't tell the owner that.
Yeah. Well, there were two like making out when I was there last Friday, which was great. I mean, I enjoyed that. So let's have more of that.
Yeah. I mean, really, I want lesbians to make out everywhere.
Yeah. It is so much more appealing than seeing two men make out, I have to say.
I'll watch I'll watch anyone make out. For a while, I went through this phase of being like, of being really into watching married people make out. Probably because it was just so different than my life that it was almost kinky. So if I knew, like, I knew a couple married couples where they'd been together a decade and they were still hot and heavy for each other.
Yeah.
And so, like, a coworker's husband would come visit her at work, and she'd walk him out so she could make out with him in the parking lot. And I'd be like, "Can I come out and watch? Like, can I take pictures?" Because that's
awesome when that's happening.
It's
because that is wonderful because you don't see that too often.
It's beautiful. Whenever I make out with someone in the parking lot at work, it's because they're new.
Yeah. And whenever I do, it's just me. I'm just making out with my hand or something.
Just the back of your hand.
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing that.
You should.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really inspires trust and confidence in those around you. Mm-hmm. They're like, yeah, Scott makes out with himself. Like, that's a guy we trust.
I go home on my lunch break a lot just to feed the dogs and to be not at work and sit on my patio and enjoy life. But lately I've been like, should I go home and masturbate? Like, would that help me? But probably not. Hey,
here's something along those lines. When I was a bus driver, I drove buses in Phoenix for a year. when I first moved back here from Chicago because I had a CDL license. So, and it's an easy job to get. But, so in our last podcast, we talked about how when you're transitioning off of brain drugs, it can do weird things to your libido. So I think, weaning myself off of Zoloft at this point. And I was just crazy horny all the time. So I used to drive this bus route that went to it ended at the Chandler Fashion Center, the Chandler Mall.
God.
And there was like a bus roundabout, like outside the parking lot. And so there's an outhouse that's for the bus drivers there. It's like a standalone building, and you have like a code that you type in that they give to the bus driver so you can pee because you're far away from the mall. I mean, it's too far to like walk to the mall to go pee. You don't have that much time. So I was like, this is really convenient, and I would use it to pee in all the time. But that particular day, I did something else in there, and I felt really bad about it. I felt guilty, but I was like, I had to do it because I'm like, I don't know, I'm going to be driving around with a boner.
Why would you feel bad about it?
Because I don't know. I mean, I was like, this is kind of gross to be doing this,
But like, again, okay.
I made sure there was no physical evidence left behind,
And what is more gross? Driving around horny all day, or just beating off and getting it over? That goes back to my whole philosophy. Just get her done.
Get her done.
Whatever it is you want to do, just fucking do it. Get it out of the way.
I took care of biz, and boy, I was really relaxed the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel great. Yeah.
And then you kept asking customers to smell your fingers.
Yeah. People are like, wow, you seem so relaxed, bus driver. I'm like, yeah. Here's the secret. So I've been, on this porn fast.
Yeah.
And I finally had, and I think this is a result of it. I was sort of waiting for it to happen, but I had a really good sex dream the other night. Yeah. Very realistic. And it was a three-way.
Yeah.
I got to fuck 2 different women in the dream.
Shut up.
Yeah, it was amazing, and it didn't last long enough for me. Like, I wish it would. That's what she said.
Yeah.
The thing about sex dreams is, like, they always wake me up because I think because you're so excited that you wake up and you're like, no, god damn it, which is what happened to me. But oh my god, it was great. It was like so real, and then I was just like, this is worth it alone. So, anyone listening out there, like, stop watching porn. You get some
and
good
you'll
sex
have some sex
dreams.
Yeah,
it's way better.
The one time in my life that I lived with a man, he when he was really busy, like during finals week or whatever, that he wouldn't have time to masturbate, or he would forget to masturbate. He would have wet dreams.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, if you're not jacking it, you will have them. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll stop jacking it and see what happens. But I'm not on Effexor, so I don't have good dreams like you have.
Yeah, Effexor dreams are amazing. Not always in a good way. I had a very long, I have a insanely long dream every night, like a crazy ass dream. That's what Effexor does to you. And last night I had a crazy ass dream that was not pleasant. It was weird and kind of scary, and you never know what you're going to get. So sometimes they're fun and interesting, and sometimes they are not. But either way, they take forever. It's like you're dreaming for 8 hours straight.
I really want to experience that because
it's weird.
I know that I dream because everyone dreams, but I don't ever remember them. Maybe once a year, I'll have a dream that I remember. So I'm kind of fascinated with the idea of having this really active inner life while you're sleeping. And I would like to have just one Effexor dream. It would make me very happy.
But I dream a lot anyway, even when I'm not on Effexor. I mean, I'm pretty. I know I've talked to people about it a lot. Some people are like you were like, oh, I barely dream, and I'm like, I dream all the time. I always dream.
Yeah.
And I have pretty vivid dreams anyway, like even when I'm off medication. So, but now, because even when I first started the drug, and I would go see my psychiatrist like every 90 days to check in, and I would tell her, like, I have these crazy dreams. She's like, oh, really? And I'm all like, yeah, is that normal? And she goes, well, yeah, you can have like vivid, enhanced dreams on Effexor. I'm like, yeah, but they're like intense, they're crazy. And she goes, oh, really? Like, she seemed kind of surprised by it. And I was like, well, here's the deal. I dream a lot anyway. I'm just like a dreamer. I don't know. I don't know why. But yeah, that's on Effexor. It's crazy.
I would like to. I listened to an interview with comedian Bert Kreischer on one podcast or another, and he was saying he loves that feeling of drifting off to sleep because he has really vivid dreams, and he likes that feeling when you're drifting off and you can feel your thoughts just kind of getting wild.
Yes.
And he goes, and you're just like horses and spoons is what
Yeah,
he said.
yeah,
He goes,
yeah.
I'm going to that place, horses and spoons. And I wish I had that because it would probably help me go to bed.
You don't experience that?
No.
Really?
I'm the exact opposite where I'm a little kid. I never want to go to bed or go to sleep because I don't want to stop doing things.
Oh my God, I love going to sleep.
And I've gotten very good and regimented about it where it's like go to bed, turn off. I have a podcast I listen to called Sleep With Me, where it's a guy who tells rambling nonsensical stories in a really calm voice.
Like ASMR basically?
Basically, yeah. And they're really funny because I've listened to them while driving. Just to be like, because I was using the app for like a month, and then I was like, I'm going to listen to this while I'm awake and see what it's about. Yeah. And it's really, really funny. Like, basically, he'll retell the plot line to an episode of Breaking Bad, but like half in Spanish. And half of it's not true. I don't know. It's really weird to describe, but. So I've gotten in the habit of making myself go to bed and have quiet time and like go lay down and then drift off. But it was something I had to teach myself. I was never like, I'm going to go to sleep and because to me going to sleep means, 8 hours of nothingness.
I love it because, I just feel like, I think part of being like a depressed, anxious person that I am is like it's very difficult to be in the world, and so for me, like sleep is the break, is the little vacation I get every. And in fact, I was really tired today because I didn't get much sleep last night, and I felt tired all day. And my coworkers were like making fun of me. They're like, "Oh, you're so tired," and I told them like, "Yeah, I only got 5 hours of sleep," and they're like, "That's what I get every night." I'm like, "I don't know how you function. Like I have to have 8 hours, like I have to have it, and I love going to sleep, and I love drifting off to sleep. And when you were talking about that comedian, that's exactly how it is for me. Like I'll be just starting to drift off, and you can feel like like my thoughts become illogical, and then sometimes you catch it, and you're like, what am I thinking about? Because I'll be thinking something like, well, tomorrow I'll climb the castle wall, and then I'll be like, what castle? Like you wake up a little bit, and like what? And then you're like, oh yeah, I'm falling asleep. And then that's what happens. Like my thoughts get all wacky, and then it's like gone.
Really? Okay, yeah. I'm gonna try it because I have different sleep rituals. Mainly, it's sleep with me. Sometimes it's reading. And then when I realize I can't hold the book up anymore, then I just put it down and go to sleep. And then this week I've been doing what I did as a teenager, which is fall asleep to true crime shows. So it's been Forensic Files this week, and it's been like, and the body was covered in semen and ripped limb from limb.
I can't watch that stuff before going to bed because I'll have those kind of dreams all night.
I don't think I'm having those kind of dreams, but maybe tonight, maybe a night in the near future, I will try to lean into those, like my own thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know if you could do it on purpose, but
I bet you could
it's maybe.
I can do anything I set my mind to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I read once that John Lennon. Well, I guess this is common knowledge. John Lennon loved beds and sleeping. Like that was like he loved going to sleep. He loved being in bed. And I remember when I read that, I was like a kid. I was like 17 or 16. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, wow, me too. Like I was like, oh, I'm glad to know it's not just me.
Yeah,
So
we have a lot in
like,
common.
I love being in bed, and I love like going to bed, and I love like falling asleep. So
interesting.
Yeah. Like if there weren't sleep, I don't know, life would be unbearable. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you need most importantly, you need a break from yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I find sleep is a lot, especially if you're like me and you have a lot of solitary hobbies that sometimes like you need a break from yourself. And they say that's when your brain like catalogs and reorganizes all the information that it took in during the day.
Right.
So it's also when I do my best farting,
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm glad we had this talk.
I'm glad we had this talk.
It was a good talk.
It was a great talk.
By the way,
should we have turned the mics on? Should we have been recording?
I was just going to say, should we say, this is McNulty and DeLorean, by the way. Congratulations on listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a Tumblr page now?
We do have a Tumblr page.
Is there an address for it? It's just McNulty and DeLorean Tumblr or something?
@tumblr.com.
I haven't told anyone about it yet. I need to tell our 5 listeners that.
I need to.
Well, I just told you we have a Tumblr page. We have a YouTube page too.
We have a YouTube and a Tumblr.
I didn't upload that last. Actually, I tried to, and I had a technical problem. I was going to talk to you about that. So.
Well, we'll talk about it.
Anyway,
but yeah, I haven't reblogged that to Tumblr yet, but I'll do it tonight when I finish editing last week's episode.
Special thanks to DeLorean for buying a new mixer board.
Yeah.
And God bless America.
Yep. Jesus.
Oh, Jesus.
That was a good podcast.
It was, yeah.
And see, we had nothing to talk about, and yet we still found